Well, welcome everybody to the Remodelers on the Rise show. We have all of them, I suppose, are nice episodes. We have a really nice episode today that's just very practical, has a very nice, clear next step for you. I'm going to go over 5 resources to transform your remodeling business's financials, and I'm going to go through a financial recap exercise that you'll find very helpful and interesting. I'm going to go through some business budget training. Yes, you need a business budget. No, it is not overly difficult. We're going to go through calculating your employee labor burden. I'm going to do a quick little look at markup versus margin so that you're crystal clear with that. And then a 5th resource I have is called This Month, Next Month, the Following Month. And it's a spreadsheet. I'm going to unpack each of these 5 resources and what you could do. You could even do it now, or you could do it halfway through, or you could do it at the end of this podcast. There is a link in the show notes of this podcast. Kyle, where are the show notes? Open up your podcast app, click on the old notes. Sometimes you have to click show more, and if you scroll down there and boom, there's going to be a beautiful link where you can download all 5 of these resources. But Kyle, how much are you charging for these resources? My friend, they are free of charge. I approach my business from a standpoint, if I help and I give and I offer a lot of valuable things to you, that in and of itself is wonderful. And then secondly, you may also decide to reach out and say, if this was the free stuff, I bet you some of these paid trainings and classes and courses that Kyle puts on might also be cool. So there you go. Ta-da! All right. And also, you may have already downloaded these too. We've got an interesting little setup on today's podcast. I have a Google Doc pulled up, and Bailey's in the background kind of producing all of this, and she just typed in, also, you might already have downloaded these. That's true. That is true. Bailey, keep your typing into the Google Doc to a minimum because it's very distracting. But if it's vitally important, or if it's something that would make me laugh, please type away. All right. So before we get into those 5 resources, something that I wish more remodelers understood about their business financials is this. You can do it. You can do this. For some of you, the numbers side and the financials come very easily. For the majority of you, they don't come super easy. And you are busy. The remodeling business is a difficult business. If you're wondering, why is this so hard? It's because it's a hard business. You are juggling marketing and sales process and design and development and estimating. You're managing a team of people. You are managing inspectors and different rules and regulations. You have clients where you are disrupting their home and it's an emotional roller coaster at times. You have the full production side of things. There's a lot of moving pieces in a remodeling business. And in amongst all of that, we need to make sure all of the numbers work and that we understand them. So that's part of what I want you to understand about your business financials is you can do this. I have seen so many remodelers go from confusion and chaos with their numbers to clarity and peace and results when it comes to their financials. And also another little truth that I want more remodelers to understand is you can't ignore it. The more you ignore it, the more you kind of give it a little cursory look, the worse it's going to get. The numbers do not lie. Money coming in, money going out, the numbers do not lie. And there's various numbers that we really need to get a handle on and know consistently. So let me kind of just give you a little review of each of these 5 resources, if I may. And again, in the show notes, if you haven't done so already, you're able to download all 5 of these little spreadsheets and resources. And also there's a little bit of training, just a little clip of training for each of them, just to help you actually take them and implement it. So the first one of 5 is the financial spreadsheet, financial recap spreadsheet. What I love about this is it takes basically your last 3 years of financials plus your projections for the current year, and it lays them out in a way that really opens your eyes to what's going on. Where are things trending in a good way or in a bad way? So you go into the spreadsheet and you plug in just in the yellow boxes. Don't mess with the ones that aren't yellow boxes. You're going to screw up the formulas that I so beautifully designed into them. But for each year of the last 3 years, and also for the projection for the current year, you're going to enter in your total revenue number. It's going to spit out underneath that your cost of goods sold. And then you're going to enter in your gross profit number. You're going to enter in your overhead expenses, your total overhead expenses. Most likely this will have your owner sat in that number. There's another line that says additional owner draw, just so that we can kind of separate it. It's helpful to really see how much you've been taking as an owner. And then we're left with the net profit number. So we enter in total revenue, gross profit, overhead number, owner draw. We pull that right off of your profit and loss statement and do that for 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, and the current year, kind of the projections for that. What you start to see as you go through here is your gross profit margin. You take those gross profit dollars and divide it by total revenue. It shows, is your gross profit margin going up and down? You can see how your overhead expenses a lot of times are going up. You can kind of see how that's trending. You can see what your net profit is doing. It's a very, very helpful exercise to go through. And then as you scroll down in the spreadsheet, there's some observations that I want you to make. There's some questions that I want you to ask yourself. And there's a little box for you to type it in. How do you feel about your total owner compensation is one of the questions. What are a couple of improvements you see in your numbers as you review year by year? What are some concerns that you see in your numbers as you review each year? Do you have a question for Kyle that he can answer? Don't hesitate to reach out. And then another box that says, what changes are you planning to make this year to improve your key financial numbers? Is it going to be related to increasing your markup, reducing slippage, improving your estimating, reducing your overhead, increasing your revenue? There's all these different dials that we can adjust. And this resource, this first of 5, gives a really nice recap on things. So that's that one, the financial recap. Another one that you can download, again, if you go to the show notes, you'll see them, is a training that I am offering free of charge to you. Very generous. You're welcome. You're welcome. On creating your business budget. On creating your business budget. I think a lot of times when we think of our annual business budget, it just can be a little bit overwhelming. And what I do in this training is simplify it. We're not even really going to be worried too much about the top part of the budget yet, the total revenue and the cost of goods sold. I like remodelers to start in the overhead expenses and start your budget there, which frankly is about 75, 80% of your overall budget. And you're going to look at each line item on your budget and you're going to say, is this going to go up? Is it going to remain the same, or is this going to go down? A lot of times advertising is one of the first lines in your overhead expenses. Is that going to go up? Is that going to stay the same? Is that going to go down? In the training, I also show you how to set this up in QuickBooks so that it's just easy to kind of compare your budget and actual. I also give you some other pointers around, make sure you have your P&L pulled up in QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online so that when you get to that advertising line and you go, really? Did I spend $14,272 last year on advertising? And you click into that number, and then it unpacks everything that is making up that number. Creating your overall business budget is a very, very important exercise. It helps you start to really understand your numbers, especially your overhead expenses. It helps you plan for additional hires or additional investments you're making in your business. And it's really, really helpful when you have created your business budget each year. I was just doing this last week with a client. We're through the first third of the year. He had his January through April P&L all set. And we did a nice little review of the P&L actual versus budget for the whole business. And we just learned a lot through that, reminded him of some of the things that he had in his business budget that he's still going to be making investments on as the year goes on. That's resource number 2, is a wonderful business budget training. Make sure you grab that one. Another free resource, a 5, is related to calculating your employee labor burden. For some of you listening to this, you have done this before. Good. That's wonderful. For some of you who are listening to this, you have done it before and you haven't done it in 2 years. That is not as good. For some of you listening, you have never done this exercise. So there's a beautiful little spreadsheet called the labor burden calculator, and there's a nice training that goes along with it. And I would love for you to download that, watch the training, and we need to go through for each of your in-house labor folks and go through and create their full employee labor burden. For example, I'm looking at this spreadsheet. Here is somebody that we're paying $30 an hour to, but their full labor burden is $43. Here's another person that is at $28 for their pay, their hourly wage, and their full labor burden cost is $48.82. You see what's going on here? We have all of these advances that go into our full employee labor burden. We need to calculate not only what we're paying them per hour, but how much we're paying in FICA, the Social Security and Medicare, federal employment, state unemployment, workers' comp, their share of general liability insurance. And then we get into some of the benefits and perks that you offer your team members, like vacation and paid sick days. Maybe you're doing something related to health insurance. Maybe you're also doing holiday pay. You also can put things like uniforms in here in your employee labor burden. Maybe some small field tools. Maybe some warranty work hours, company meetings, etc. There's just a list, line item, that you need to go through one at a time for each of your employees, and you just see what the full labor burden of each of your team members comes out to. And then once we have that, once you know those numbers, then you can decide what to do with them. What number are you going to put in? When I look at your estimate and I look under finished carpentry, and I see that you have 20 labor hours that you're planning for that part of the estimate, what is the cost per labor hour that you're putting in your estimate? It's going to be heavily weighed based on your employee labor burden. And by the way, the cost that you put in there, your markup gets added to that. So there's a nice training that goes through how this employee labor burden spreadsheet works, and I want to offer this beautiful spreadsheet to you as one of the 5 resources that you have access to. So we've covered 5 resources to transform your business financials. We've covered the first 3. The first one, financial recap. The second one, creating your business budget. The third one, calculating your employee labor burden. The next 2 are fairly quick ones, but let me pause there. These are free resources that are very, very helpful. If you download them and don't do anything with them, they're not very helpful. If you say, hey, I'm going to take one of these free resources and I'm actually going to spend 30 minutes, listen to Kyle's little 10-minute training on the financial recap, and I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes filling this out. If you do that, you're going to start to become a remodeler on the rise even more so than you already are. I'll also mention at the end, some of these free all of these resources are wonderful. And if you like them, you're going to like even more some of the paid training and coaching that we offer. I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. So the fourth one is markup versus margin training. Markup versus margin training. Big thing, and a lot of you have probably heard about the difference between markup and margin. Some of you may have been getting bit over the years because you didn't know the distinction between the two of them. But this training and this nice little cheat sheet of a sheet that I encourage a lot of my clients just to print out has all of the gross profit margins in one column, and then it has the corresponding markups in the second column. So for example, if I am doing a straight across the board markup, and that's how I'm charging for my projects, if I have a 1.33 markup, I take that $1,000 of cost times 1.33. I sell it to the customer at $1,333. I have a 33% markup, and that equates to a 25% margin. Some of you are nodding your head. Yep, been there, studied this. Got a good handle on it? Another example, some of you are going, ugh, this is still kind of confusing to me. I need to go download that resource. Thank you, Kyle, so much for doing that. And then I'm going to print out that one sheeter and I'm just going to study that thing. Beautiful. It's got a nice little cheat sheet to it, and it's got a nice little description on the right-hand side, and there's a little recording. As another example, if I have a 1.50 markup, that equates to a 33% margin. We need to know this. We need to understand it. We need clarity on markup and margin. There's a great resource for you to gain some clarity from that. And then the other resource is called This Month, Next Month, the Following Month. This month, next month, the following month. And there's a lot of different ways that you could do it, but it's an exercise that I have several of my clients do to give them a little bit more of a forward look at their upcoming revenue. So let's say, for example, you have a sales goal this year of $900,000. If you divide that out over the course of 12 months, that's $75,000 a month in remodeling revenue. So that's kind of the monthly goal you're aiming for, would be $75,000. On this little spreadsheet, what we do is we list out all of the jobs that you have signed, not ones that you're waiting for an answer on, not ones that are feeling kind of good, not ones that you got a verbal confirmation on, not ones that have paid for design and development that you haven't converted yet. Did I make my point clear? Signed work, signed, sealed, delivered. And when you do that, you go and enter all those projects in column A, and you put their total revenue in column B. And then we need to kind of think through this month, next month, the following month. So for example, if it's August, that's this month. Next month is September. The following month is October. We need to look at those picks. We need to compare it to our production calendar and schedule. And we need to figure out for each project, how much of that $6,000 project am I going to collect this month? How much next month? How much the following month? So for example, on that $60,000 project, you may be collecting $30,000 of that this month, $20,000 of that next month, and $10,000 of that the following month. And what this is really helpful for is to really project a little bit what your revenue that you're planning and expecting to bring in is. It's been very comforting and helpful when we are really focused on driving top line revenue in order to produce a really healthy gross profit, which then in turn pays for our overhead expenses and generates a nice net profit. It gives you a little bit of a preview of what's coming up. If I had a goal of $75,000 and I have $75,000 in November, and I've got $85,000. I'm sorry, this month being November, I have $85,000 for next month, and then I only have $30,000 the following month. I may not freak out because I've got a lot in design development that I'm expecting that third month, but it also might light a fire under me. And frankly, you could build this out maybe even for a fourth or a fifth month, just to, again, get a preview of what your total revenue is looking like, which then kind of fuels the rest of your numbers. So that's the fifth resource, is this month, the next month, the following month spreadsheet that you can download. Well, folks, those are the 5 resources to help transform you. If you go in the show notes, you can find a link to download all of these. And then in addition to that, like I hinted at halfway through, there are some additional ways that we can help. A lot of times folks start to download content like we're offering here. It's super helpful. And sometimes I never hear from them, and they've made some progress and they've made some improvements. That's wonderful. There's also a lot of your remodeling peers that after they've kind of tasted some of the resources and done some things with them, realize, okay, I need a little bit more direction on this. I need a little bit more clarity on this. I have questions that I'd love to bounce off a coach. And in particular, there's a wonderful course called Remodel Your Profits that is part of the VIP Club. You may have heard me talk about the VIP Club. VIP Club is a wonderful group-based resource where we have a lot of courses that are already recorded, trainings that are already recorded, a lot on financials, also on the sales process, marketing, and leadership. And you can dig in and immediately start to dig in and implement some of the training in a deeper level, and also have access to get your questions answered. In addition to that, there are live trainings around these different topics, and an open coaching gym call, we call it. Every month there's a coaching gym call where you can just call in and get your questions answered live. So that's one way. VIP club, you can take a look at that. And then there's also one-on-one coaching. If you look at my calendar, you'll see throughout my weeks that there are one-on-one coaching calls scheduled with remodelers around the country. So perhaps you really need to dig in and have a deeper level of communication on it, coaching on it, specifics to your business. And that's what I do in my one-on-one coaching. Ta-da! So there's a few other ways that we can help. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. Here's even, you can go to remodellersontherise.com. It's probably the best way to do it. Remodellersontherise.com and click on the contact form if you want to hear more about the VIP club or one-on-one coaching. And for these 5 resources we just talked about, go to the show notes, click on that, download them, and knock yourself out, folks. Hopefully you find those to be helpful, and they help you to really lock in and understand your numbers on a deeper level. Keep focusing on that. Do your job costing, do your planning, do your budgeting, understand your markup versus margin. Dig into those things and you will be a remodeler on the rise. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.